Every contractor I've talked to tells me the same thing about Angi and that it's basically a complete waste of money. And I'm kind of just here to tell you that they're completely right. When you buy a lead from Angi, it's usually under the assumption that, you'll be getting a job because you're probably paying, $75 to $100 for that job. But most of the time, what happens when you actually do get around to paying them is that when you call the lead, that person usually won't pick up or has already been called by four or five other contractors. And, at first you might think it's kind of bad luck, or maybe it's just, one bad lead. But after a while of working with Angie and buying leads and wasting, hundreds, if not thousands of dollars, you realize that this is kind of just how Angie's system works and that it's basically just rigged to make you lose money in the long run. But yeah, in this video, I'm kind of just going to show you exactly how Angie gets these leads. I'm also going to explain how their sales funnel works and how they, grab homeowner info from ads online and then sell that same exactly to a bunch of different contractors all at once. But most importantly, I'm going to show you a better way to get customers and how to build your own sales pipeline where real people are ready to hire you based off your reputation and not, just look around and find the cheapest price or find the contractor that do it for the lowest amount of money. So to show you this, I'm kind of just going to start with the homeowner here on the left, who's really just going to be the person, requesting the quote. And keep in mind that she's probably not going to be, the final decision maker. It's most likely going to be her husband paying at the end of the day. So, kind of in this scenario, it's essentially just going to be a lady who's thinking about a kitchen remodel, or some other project, but hasn't really asked her husband about it. And before we even get to how Angie qualifies them as a lead, we can kind of see again that this is already going to be someone, or like this isn't going to be a lead that really converts just based off the scenario I gave you. We can kind of see that the lead is low intent, probably, doesn't have a budget and is really just browsing on Google. So they aren't too serious about it anyway. And, I'd be kind of pissed if I paid $75 for, a bullshit lead like this. But just to show you how it works, the homeowner probably goes to Google and types in something like, kitchen remodel near me. And right at the top, she will most likely see Angie because Angie pays millions of dollars every month to stay right there. So because of this, she'll click the link to get an instant quote, fill out the form, and then her phone will start blowing up because contractors will start calling them because they were just sent a warm lead. They were sent all our info. But the thing is, she hasn't even talked to her husband yet, and there's no actual budget, and you already paid $75 for that exact lead. And the reason this happens is mostly because of how Angie actually makes money. They don't actually have to, do the jobs because they get paid either way. And they don't actually, care who gets hired. The entire business model is really just based off of selling the intent of the homeowner for getting the job done, regardless of how strong that intent actually is. For example, that form I showed you that she filled out, it gets sent straight to Angie's database, and then in real time, you can kind of see here that one lead is sold to six different contractors for around $75 each, and Angie just made $450 just by one person filling out the form. And the homeowner probably doesn't even understand that her information was just sold to a bunch of local contractors in the area. And when you do get to calling them, like I mentioned before, they probably aren't going to pick up because they were never really serious about the job to begin with. And they're also probably getting six different calls from other contractors, ready to give her a quote. And again, she was never serious about actually getting that work done. But to put this simply, I'm going to show you why this probably won't be the most cost efficient way to get leads. I'm kind of going to give you the best case scenario for using Angie, but let's just say you buy 20 leads for $75. That brings your customer acquisition to $1,500, and out of those 20 people, maybe four will answer the phone. You might even be able to give a quote to one or two of them, and if you're lucky, you'll close one job. And that's if you're lucky, because in reality, it's going to be worse than this. But, just based off that information, your customer acquisition is already 1,500. You might land a $3,000 job, but by the time you get that job, you already paid 1,500, and then accounting for labor, materials, fuel, and time, your profit margin shrinks really fast. And that's also assuming that nothing goes wrong, because you have to remember that this is the absolute best case scenario and will only really hold true if you call seconds within getting the lead, because that's really the only time that you'll probably be able to reach the homeowner. You'll also probably need to have some sort of reputation on Google or Facebook that, shows actual work you've done, because nobody, as much as people, they don't want to work with someone that has absolutely no experience. And finally, you have to have the cheapest price, because that's usually what the leads through Angi will care about at the end of the day. And this model, or like Angie's business model in general, feels kind of broken because it's based a lot on volume and not value. You're kind of thrown into this race with, six other contractors all chasing the same person. You're not really in control of the interaction you have with them. You don't know if the lead is warm or cold. You don't know how many other people are calling them. And the worst thing, in my opinion, with Angie is you can't prevent competitors from undercutting you. So let's just to give you an example, let's say you quote a job for $2,000 over the phone. That homeowner could then tell the next contractor that calls that, you quoted this job for $2,000. Can you do better? And most of the time they'll be like, yeah, I can, and they'll do it for 1,800, and you basically just lost that job. And just to go over everything we just talked about and kind of the systematic problems with Angie, I'd say the biggest issue is that you're not obviously not the only one getting that lead, and you're obviously competing with six other contractors for the same exact job. So even if the person's interested, now it's just, a race to see who calls them first. And when you're all kind of offering the same thing, what will happen? You're going to end up competing on price, and whoever has the cheapest price usually wins. And it's not exactly about quality. It's not really about reputation either. It's just who can do it for less and who can call the lead the fastest. And on top of that, Angie also misleads a lot of these homeowners with fake contractor pages just to get more clicks. So half the time, people don't know who they're actually contacting, and that when you do actually get the lead, you're probably, busy. You could be driving or maybe actually like working on a job. So you don't even have time to call them right away. And by the time you do, they've already been hit up by five other guys and the job's gone. And that's just, how the system's built. And it's basically just, it's a losing game for contractors. So what you're going to want to do instead of paying Angie every week, hoping for maybe one good lead, is you need to set up your own online presence, like, your Google business profile, which is literally what people see when they search up for your service. And most contractors don't really have, one, or it looks really unprofessional. And I'd say the next thing is to have a pretty good website. It doesn't have to be, a crazy $10,000 website. It just needs to be something that's pretty simple, loads pretty fast, has good pictures, and has a way for clients or leads to contact you. You kind of just want people to be able to look at it and be like, okay, this guy knows what he's doing. He's done work before, and I trust him. And when people find you that way, it's kind of a game changer, because, they're reaching out to you because they already liked what they saw. They've already seen your work, read your reviews, and now they're just trying to get the work done. So now you're not fighting over price, and you're basically just confirming details, setting up the job. And that's the kind of lead you want. That's the kind of lead that will pay you for what the job is worth and refer you to, friends and family if they need, similar jobs done. Yeah, but just to show you what's possible with, having a pretty optimized Google page as well as a pretty good website, I'm going to show you one of my client accounts of EY Gutters. You kind of see pretty good customer interactions, good photos that they've posted to their Google page. And let me show you the website. You can see the website has, phone number, get a free quote page, as well as pretty good before and after for the service pages. Reviews are easily visible to anyone. And then also an about us page, so people now know they're working with a real person, not just some random person who's going to be giving them a quote. And just to show you some of the leads he's actually gotten to the website, I'm going to show you his client account. But yeah, you can see here some of the leads he's gotten. As I told you, I think he started working with us a couple of weeks ago, but he's gotten, a good amount of leads through his website. Some of these are worth more than others, like this one, 30 homes for gutter cleaning. That could potentially be a $4,000 job, right? And the single biggest thing that's different from these types of leads and the ones you get on Angi are that these people probably came through Google. So they saw your website, they saw, your Google page, and now they want to work with you because of the quality of your work and not just how much you'll charge, which is the main thing that Angi does. And another thing that happens is you're not racing to give them a quote first because they probably aren't requesting it to 6 other contractors. So you can kind of take your time to get back to them and you're just more likely to close them. So by doing this, your customer acquisition cost effectively goes down and your profit margins go up, which, means more money, which who doesn't want that? I mean, if you want to learn more about, or how Angie's pipeline works or how their sales funnel works, just shoot a comment below. And if you want to get in contact with me about how I do this for my clients, just fill out our contact form on the website and, I'll get back to you as soon as possible. Thank you.